Hi, Chris here from Inside the Recording Studio podcast. In this video, I'd like to show you how to go about sharing multi-tracks when you're collaborating or you're sending your track over to somebody else to mix. Let's check it out. Here we have a file that I want to share with a collaborator. And to make sure that there are no timing issues or anything, we see all of these different regions that are just placed along the timeline. The best thing to do is to make sure that each track starts at the same bar. So what I've done is I've select a cycle region in Logic. I have, in this case, it's from bar 5 to bar 145. And another thing I want to do before I start exporting here is do a little bit of housekeeping. I want to make sure that my tracks are labeled fairly descriptively. The tracks are going to take on that name, so it just makes the process a little bit easier as opposed to have the dreaded audio 1, audio 2, audio 3, and he has to figure out what everything is. So now that I have my cycle range set, I'm going to select all my tracks. I'm then going to go to Export 22 tracks as audio files. Now what you can do is create a folder, and you can call it whatever, multi-tracks. And now a couple of things I want to pay attention to here. Trim silence at file end. I want to set it to export cycle range only. 1 file per track, no normalization. And here is where the file for each track is going to be placed. So I have it to track name and then custom. So track name will be adopted by what each track was called, but then I might have a perhaps song name affixed to that. So we see what each track is going to look at. It's going to be kick and song name. Now I've already done that, so I'm going to hit cancel. And now we're going to take a look at what those tracks will look like imported into a new session. So now we are in my mix template, and I'm doing this just to show you what things would look like when we export the tracks, the multi-tracks, in the manner that we did. I have pulled in all the files into my mix templates. I have all my drum tracks. I have a bass track, a couple of guitars, and a bunch of keyboard stuff here at the bottom. But as you can clearly see, each track starts and ends at the same time. And this process makes it a whole lot easier for anybody to line up when even if you're collaborating or if you're sending them off for somebody else to mix. And it's also a safeguard against if you're working with somebody that doesn't have the same DAW that you do. This will line up perfectly in whatever DAW he or she chooses to work with. Now, one last thing I want to talk about, and this is something that Jody and I spoke about in the podcast, the difference between multi-tracks and stems. I know a lot of guys like to call, I'm stemming out the tracks. That's technically not correct. These are multi-tracks. So what is a stem? Well, a stem is a group of tracks. So all of these guitar tracks could be a stem, the bass, even though it's only one, it might be a bass stem, a drum stem, a keyboard stem. So that would look something like this. These are just the individual groups of tracks. So, if you're telling somebody that you want the stems, this might be what you end up with. So make sure you specify multi-tracks. That's what you want. If you're mixing, if you're just collaborating, maybe it's not a big deal. But when you're mixing, you are definitely going to want the multi-tracks. Hopefully you found that helpful. Thanks for watching and have an awesome day.